Hello, and welcome to the Clay County Museum at 805 Brown Street in Salina. We're going to step inside and see some of the wonderful artifacts and some of the restoration work that we have done here in Clay County at the museum. As we step into the building, you're going to notice this beautiful, beautiful expansion room, which is going to be used for museum artifacts, but it's also going to be used for community activities. We hope possibly sometime in August to put a couple of tables in here and bring some children in and let them build bat boxes. The reason for that is even though we have history and we have artifacts, nothing's more important to maintain than our environment. We have to take care of our environment in order to take care of the things that live there and belong there. So that's one of the reasons. This will be more of like a community room where you'll be able to see activities. We may have one day, we may have a quilt, like a quilt show, not necessarily the show, but we'll have people come in and actually make quilts or make a pillow or something like that. Teach them some of the techniques from yesterday. And one thing that I have to say is this room has the most beautiful paneling. The wood paneling that's on this room was given to us by Honest Abe. We could not have asked for anything more heartwarming to make the museum warm and just make people feel alive when they walk in. This is absolutely gorgeous. One of the things we did recently when they had the Chocolate Gravy Festival, we wanted to have something the museum to tie into their festival. So one of the things I thought would be critical was to have a quilt show. So we brought quilts in. All of the quilts you're going to see here were made by people here in Clay County. Many of them were my ancestors, being my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and even my great-great-grandmother. So if you walk around and look at the quilts, there are a lot of different patterns. This one right here was the one that I know that my great-great-grandmother pieced. She lived here in Clay County all of her life, except for a brief tour to Texas. But she didn't like Texas. They came back home. And so this was one that she actually, I know, had her hands. She made this one. The others, I'm sure she had a part in. And if you look, we have different themes. This is called a double wedding ring, which is one of the prettiest ones. That was by my grandma and great-grandma. A butterfly quilt, which is one of my favorites. And I think my favorite would have to be the fan. I just love the fan quilt. I think it's pretty. Recently, we had someone bring in, as you've heard about Willow Grove. Willow Grove was the community that was covered by water. Well, recently, a lady in Gainesboro, someone brought a quilt into her, and it was actually made for a principal in Willow Grove. And so it was so unique in that the people that made it actually embroidered their names. So that made it even more special than ever. And then they made a donation. They said when they did it, and it was actually made in 1940. So then we'll step into the other part of the museum. What is critical about this portion of the museum is it was originally all of the material that was dedicated by Honest Abe to build this building. Originally, it was a Chamber of Commerce. And then the chamber moved on to another location, and so they gave it to the museum, or didn't give it, but they leased it out to the museum to be a museum, and that was in about 1986, and that's when it started to be a museum. If you keep in mind, we went from this one large room to this beautiful space because now we can spread things out and people can see everything rather than being all crunched in one room. But again, we have Honest Abe is responsible for giving us this building and for helping us with the extension. When you come in here, it's absolutely like stepping back in time. We have things that come from Willow Grove, which was flooded by the water. We have, this is a little bit interesting, and I don't know, some people get a little nervous when they see this. This is actually an autopsy table. Back in the day, we didn't have the funeral homes to go to or to take people to. So many times they would do the autopsy at home in someone's home. And in the bag are the tools that did the autopsy. So we will not go into those or pull them out, but that's part of what that was. Another part that I'm just ecstatic about is this over here. And this was a doctor's tools. And when you go in and you look at these tools, you'll see that many of these tools were exactly what the doctor still uses today. The little ear tubes to look in the ear, the little funnel that they put in your ear, it's here, just like it today, but these are extremely old. And then we have his doctor's case used. Of course, the doctor came to the house. Well, he had to have some of the things with him, so he carried a leather case. And in the leather case were the different things he used to check and see how you were doing. And if you've ever had your knee hit with something to see if it would jerk, if you had movement in there, they're still using the same thing they used back then. A little piece of a tool with like a rock on it. They tapped your knee. So. And we won't cover everything, but I do want to cover one piece, and that's the piece that's so important to me. This is one that it's a leather neck. Many of you have heard Marines called leather necks. Well, the reason they're called leather necks is they wore a leather collar. And you might say, and you could imagine how miserable and how hot that was. But they were fighting some people that used sabers and swords. And so if someone hit them in the neck with a saber, it wouldn't go through the leather. So that is a really precious piece for us. And it was worn by a gentleman from Clay County. Okay. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the spinning wheels and flack wheels. Flack wheels were first, and then the spinning wheel, they used a spinning wheel. But that's another piece of history that we've tried to capture. The museum is open Friday and Saturday from 11 to 4, but you can also call us at our number here, which is 931-243-4220, and we'll be glad to meet you because we're so proud of what we've been able to save and to take care of. We want to show it to everyone.